Welcome back.
Fort Treconderoga, May 28th, 1936. So we're still in 1936, haven't gone back yet. Fortunately, the last day of school was brief.
Just like it should be.
Oh, I wish. Just long enough to hand out report cards and clean out desks. After lunch, when Shady said I could use the old treehouse out back for having friends over, he was off on 2 counts. First, I didn't have any friends to have over. Second, that conglomeration, that's one of your vocab words, conglomeration of half-nailed boards could hardly be called a treehouse. Oh, it was a tree, all right, 30 feet up, with nothing to climb on except skinny branches and a rope ladder that looked to be holding on for dear life. Highlight that. A rope ladder that looked to be holding on for dear life. Personification. Rope ladder can't really hold on.
No. It means it's thin and it's been around for a long time.
Yeah. But I'd spent part of the afternoon helping tidy up around Shady's place, and now I wanted to be alone to look through the Lucky Bill cigar box I'd found under the floorboards. That tree house looked to be as alone as I could get. So I stuffed the box in my satchel and climbed one creaky step at a time. The daylight coming through the floorboards was enough to make me wish I had a little fat on me so I wouldn't slide right through to the ground. Inside, I looked out a jagged hole that was pretending to be a window. I could see everything from up there. The Manifest Herald on one side of the hardware store, Kofsky's Diner, and the Better Days Funeral Parlor on the other. What a name.
Yeah.
Across the street were the bank, the post office, Dawkins Shrug and Dime Store, Cooper's Barbershop, and the Curly Q Beauty Emporium. And those train tracks that Gideon was at the other end of. Then I saw Letty and Ruth Ann run into Dawkins Drug and Dime. I'd stood on the outside looking in on my way home from school. It had a soda fountain and jars of lemon drops, licorice whips, and candy buttons.
It's what they used to hold the candy in. You'd go in and you'd ask for some lemon drops, and you'd say, I have a nickel. And the lady would fish out a nickel's worth of lemon drops. Now, my grandmother, who is no longer with us, used to tell me a story of when she would walk through downtown Muskogee on hot days when the doors and the windows were open in the summertime, and she'd go by a drugstore that had a soda fountain in it, which is basically like a counter. You'd go and order sandwiches and malts and soda pop. And she said that she could always smell them mixing up a Coca-Cola because they would put Coke syrup in a glass and then they would pump full of carbonated water, and with a little spoon, they'd stir it up. She said, I always wanted a Coke, always smelled so good, but I didn't have the nickel to go in and buy one for myself because it was the Great Depression.
And there was a soda fountain in the drugstore where I grew up when I was really little. I mean, like 5 or under. And so my memories of it are kind of fuzzy, but I do remember they had like a bar, like think of an old fashioned 50s diner, kind of thing. They had like a bar, and then they had a couple of places, couple of booths you could go sit, but they also had like bar stools. And then so you know how now when you like go to Quick Trip or Readers or whatever, you put the you put the cup in, and then the Coke, the Dr. Pepper, whatever just comes out and it's already mixed up. Well, they would have a thing of Coca-Cola syrup. They would pump it in, and then they'd put the carbonated water in and mix it up. So if you put more syrup in, it was more sweet. And if you put less, it was more like acidic.
It was just weak.
It was weak, and it was more carbonated watery. But it was a really fun place. And they had like little finger foods, and candy and stuff like that.
Now, not every drugstore back at that time had a soda fountain, but most did, if they were of any size at all. And so, there was one when I grew up in Norman where we would go and get chicken salad sandwiches and malts for lunch. And then there was one that was right down the street from where my grandmother lived in Muskogee, and it had a soda fountain. And I always wanted to go in there and get a malt, but no one would take me.
Probably didn't have any money for it.
Yeah.
So imagine something like that inside Walgreens now. Like, it would be weird.
Yeah, you don't find soda fountains in Walgreens
Yeah.
or CVS or at the Walmart pharmacy. That's just not out there anymore.
And they were all like little, like, where I grew up, it was Taylor's drugstore, and like Mr. Taylor owned it. Like, it wasn't like a Walgreens or a CVS or anything like that.
Yep.
Okay, so she's got all of this lemon drops and licorice whips and candy buttons, the little tiny candies that are like on the wax cards. Yeah. I must have been steaming up the window because a stern-looking woman, probably Mrs. Dawkins herself, had shooed me off. I wondered what treats those girls were getting. Maybe Gideon would take me there when he came to get me. Again, I felt a little off balance, like I'd felt in the newspaper office the day before, so she knows something's up. But who wouldn't feel a little wobbly in a rickety treehouse so high above the ground? Enough goosenecking. I had a look around the treehouse, figuring what I'd haul up with me next time. Food, for one thing. I'd skipped lunch, and the afternoon was heading from mid to late. There wasn't much left in the tree fort from previous dwellers, just an old hammer and a few rusted tin cans holding some even rustier nails. A couple of wood crates with the salt girl holding her umbrella painted on top.
Morton Salt.
Yep, and it comes in a blue container, and the girl in the yellow rain jacket, and she's got the umbrella.
And the phrase was, what was the phrase on the thing? When it rains, it pours. You're pouring salt.
Bump.
Thank you.
And
got to be old to know that.
This was in a wood crate, not like the round kind of container.
So it would have been the crate that several of these blue little packages, mini tubs would have been in.
And a shabby plaque dangling sideways on one nail. Fort Treconderoga. Probably named after the famous fort from Revolutionary War days. Anything else that might have been left behind had probably been weathered to bits and fallen through the cracks. No matter. I'd have this place whipped into shape lickety-split. First off, I picked out the straightest nail I could find and fixed that sign right up. Fort Treconderoga was open for business. Kneeling in front of one of the crates like it was an altar, I opened the cigar box and let the contents tumble out. There was the map. Not a folded-up road map, but a homemade one on faded paper with worn edges. It was a hand-drawn picture of places around the town labeled with names. Up top, in a youthful hand, were the words, "The Home Front." Then there were the keepsakes, little things kept for the sake of something or someone. A cork, a fish hook, a silver dollar, a fancy key, and a tiny wooden baby doll, no bigger than a thimble, painted in bright colors with a face and everything. Okay, so highlight: a cork, a fish hook, a silver dollar, a fancy key, a tiny wooden baby doll, and then out to the side, right, map. To me, they were like treasures from a museum, things a person could study to learn about another time and the people who lived back then. Then there were the letters. I selected one and held the thin paper to my nose, wondering, hoping that I'd smell something of Gideon as a boy. Maybe smells like dog or wood or pond water. I felt like I was floating in my daddy's world of summer and hide and seek and fishing when I opened the paper and read the greeting. "Dear Jinx," it said in an unfamiliar penmanship. My heart sank like a 5-gallon bucket full of disappointment. The cigar box and letters didn't belong to Gideon, but I kept reading.
So on the map it said the home front. And when the country was at war, World War I or World War II or Korea, when you were actually at the battle, you were at the front. The front of the war was called the front. But people that were back in the United States were known as being at the home front, and they were asked to keep the home fires burning so that you would always know there was a warm place and a dry place in better times.
For the soldiers to come home to.
Because you were fighting for them. because goodness sakes, we didn't want any Nazis marching into the United States. All right, here's the letter. It's written by someone by the name of Ned Gillen of the Santa Fe Railway in the car next to the caboose, January 15th, 1918. Dear Jinx, if my penmanship is a bit jiggly, it's because I'm writing to you from the train. I know you're sore at me for leaving, but when you're older, you'll understand. Besides, I won't be gone long. Check in on Pop for me. He might need a little help at the hardware store. In the meantime, somebody's got to keep watch on the home front. With the war going on, you can't be too careful about spies. You've heard some of the fellers talking about someone rattling around in the woods at all hours, just like last month. Stucky Sabolskis and Danny McIntyre said they were out night fishing when they heard a rattling that sent their dogs into a tizzy. Stucky says his dog Bumper can sniff out spies just as well as raccoons, but after sniffing around the woods, both dogs came back with nothing but a shank bone to show for their efforts. Well, that rattling spy, he's probably digging up all kinds of secret information to give to the Germans, like what's the best time to catch night crawlers or which boys are sneaking out at night to go skinny dipping. I wrote up a map for you so you'll know what's important and what you're protecting. Plus, I left some mementos I know you've been eyeballing. My Liberty Head silver dollar, that fishing lure, and a skeleton key. But don't get any ideas when I get back, which will probably be by the end of summer. They are to be returned to their rightful owner, me. So remember, be on the alert. Keep your eyes and ears open. The Rattler is watching, Ned.
So he thinks he'll be home by the end of the summer of 1918.
Yeah.
He thinks the war will be over. Is he going to be right?
I think it's 1919, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. The yellowed paper felt brittle in my hands. Home front, spies, skinny dipping. I didn't know Ned or Jinx, but the words in the letters thrilled me. Their lives seemed full of adventure and mystery. A girl's voice jolted me from my thoughts. Abilene, yoo-hoo! Abilene, you up there? Someone called. Shady said we'd find you in that treehouse, but from the looks of it, you're likely to fall out at any minute. I peeked out of the treehouse and pulled my head back quick. It was Letty and Ruth Ann. I had wanted them to come. I should have been glad they did, but I was still filled with disappointment about the letters not being to Gideon and curiosity about Ned and Jinx and the spy known as the Rattler. I can't work on that assignment just now, I hollered back without looking out. Assignment? It's the last day of school, for crying out loud, Letty said. The assignment can wait. After all, everyone's on vacation. That's right. We just saw Sister Redempta wearing her wading habit down at the river, Ruth Ann yelled. I poked my head out. You did? No, but I bet that'd get you down from that treehouse in a hurry. Letty laughed.
Well, Letty is a funster.
I pulled my head back in, feeling a little foolish. Even if Sister Redempta had a wading habit, there probably was no water in the riverbed. Because
It's summertime, and it's the Great Depression, and it is the Dust Bowl.
It took you a while to catch on.
It's a drought. I'm just keeping up.
And they told her she had a wading habit, like a bathing suit.
But it was still
outfit.
like a nun's habit, but it probably went down to her knees.
No. And we've asked the sisters, actually, and when they go swimming, they wear bathing suits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. Me too.
Yeah. Even if Sister Redempta had a wading habit, there probably was no water in the waterbed. I'm busy right now. Okay, I guess we'll come up. You first, Soletta. After you, Ruth Ann. I was sure they were just teasing me again until I heard the creak and pull of the rope ladder. I tried to fold the map before they pulled themselves up. They were fast climbers. What are you doing up here? Ruth Ann poked her head up first and scrambled onto the platform. I slipped the map and keepsakes back into the Lucky Bill box. Nothing much. What are y'all doing up here? I really don't need help with that assignment. Nope, I'll be long gone before Sister Redempta can lasso me with that rope around her waist. She couldn't really lasso someone with that, but
No, you could try.
it's kind of funny that that's what she thinks she would do.
Yeah.
Besides, y'all probably have better things to do, like run off to the dime store or something. I didn't know why I was being so snippy. I guessed it was because Gideon had taught me not to be anybody's charity case. Well, as a matter of fact, that's where we just came from, Letty said, reaching up for Ruth Ann's hand. With her short curly hair, she looked like the salt girl on the crates, and she carried a red bandana knapsack on her back. We brought you something. She opened the pack and pulled out 3 lovely sandwiches wrapped in wax paper, 3 apples, and my goodness me, 3 ice-cold Coca-Colas.
It's a feast.
At the same time, Ruth Ann saw me clutching the letters. What are you hiding? She snatched them out of my hand. Give them back, I said. Are these letters from your boyfriend? My pride welled up like a blister ready to pop. I grabbed the letters. I know why you're here. Y'all are the ones hoping to get noticed by the teacher or your parents for doing a good deed to the new girl. Well, I don't need no corpus works of mercy, I said, slipping into my new girl in town way of talking. So y'all can just find someone else to get your extra credit from this summer.
What does corpus mean?
Well, she was trying to say corporal works of mercy.
Corpus means body in Latin.
Yes. Seeing the looks on their faces, I almost busted out crying to be so mean. Oops. I'm sorry. My phone needs to go into low power mode. They looked at each other as if silently agreeing which one would speak to me. That's just fine. It was Ruth Ann. But I'd like to point out that they're the corporal works of mercy. You know, doing things like clothe the naked and feed the hungry. And we weren't doing them in the first place. But I think even Sister Redempta would agree that there isn't one among them says anything about sitting in a treehouse with the pig-headed. Isn't that right, Letty? Ooh, so they're calling her stubborn.
Yeah.
That's right, Letty said, quietly putting the food and drinks back into the bandana. Not one about running all over town collecting empty pop bottles for trading in to bring Coca-Cola to the ungrateful. We came up here to pay a visit and get acquainted, but it looks like you've got your own self to keep you company, or y'all self, or whatever it is you keep saying. Come on, Letty, let's go. They both stood. I wasn't sure what to say, but knew it had better be something good and quick. You mean y'all don't say y'all? They paused. Then Ruth Ann answered, sounding kind of disgusted. No, we don't say y'all. That's 2 words. You, all. You might as well get that straight right now. I cleared some dust off the floor with my foot. Anything else I need to know? For while I'm here, that is. Letty and Ruth Ann looked at each other again, probably deciding if they could tolerate me another minute. They must have figured they could because they sat back down and opened their parcel of sandwiches. Well, Letty said while Ruth Ann popped the bottle tops off with the hammer claw, like the end of the hammer. There's a river that when it's in Arkansas, you say it like that, the Arkansas River.
I believe we have that running right through Tulsa.
Yep.
The Arkansas River.
But when it's in Kansas, when you get to the Kansas border, it's called the Arkansas River.
That is correct. And they will make a point of it. If you go to Kansas, there's no W at the end of that word. Why would you call it Arkansas if there's no W? It's Arkansas. There's a city just north of Ponca City in southern Kansas, west of Manifest, and it's called the Arkansas City, not Arkansas City.
Right. But we say Arkansas, but they're telling her, well, you're in Kansas, you call it the Arkansas River. That's kind of important. And there's a woman up the way who sits on her porch and stares. Don't let her look you in the eye or you'll turn to stone. Letty said, as if that was on the same level of importance as how to pronounce Arkansas.
Or Arkansas.
And you might, they're in Kansas. So.
They are in Kansas, but we're not in Kansas anymore, are we?
And you might want to work on your grammar, Ruth Ann added with a mouthful of egg salad sandwich.
Egg salad.
It doesn't bother us any, but fact is, during the summer, we all talk however we want, but come fall, Sister Redempta's kind of picky when it comes to don't need knows and might couldas. And as for that lasso around her waist, it's not a lasso, it's a rosary, and it's for praying on. I could tell it would take a while to learn the lay of the land, but that was okay. Those girls were real friendly. The Coca-Cola was going down good, and come fall, I'd be long gone. I told myself, pushing aside the wobbly feeling I'd been having off and on. Oh, my phone's going. I opened the cigar box. You ever seen a spy map? I asked.
Bum, bum, bum.